Netflix's Avatar isn't wholly bad, and they do get some things right and make some good changes. So I thought it would be fun to identify the 10 best and focus on the bright side. Also, tomorrow I'll be posting a second video of the opposite, and we'll do the top 10 worst changes. Number 10. Gran giving Katara the water-bending scroll. This is obviously a very minor change, and it was kind of hard to pick out 10 good changes the show made. But since this adaptation is being done in 8 episodes, they need to condense down a lot of plot beats into a short time frame. And for this instance, I think this was a perfect example of that. Instead of having an entire side adventure of fighting pirates because Katara stole a water-bending scroll, this change simply and efficiently saves the show time. Number 9. Having Jet try to kill the Mechanist. I feel like this is a change that was close to being really good, but the writers took an inferior direction with this plot point. And that's the way in which Jet tries to kill the Mechanist. I think it would have been an infinitely better scene if instead of trying to blow up this group of important figures, that includes the King of Amashu, Jet instead kidnaps the Mechanist with the intention of executing him. This would force a great point of conflict because Katara would have to convince Jet and his followers that the man he's killing, despite being flawed, isn't purely evil. He has a son, and killing his father would only create another figure, driven by revenge and rage, which would also act as a great mirror to Jet's past, where his parents were killed by the Fire Nation. Katara exposes that this is a never-ending cycle, and from there, it would be up to the writers to stick to the source material where Jet remains bad, or you could have him rectify his flaws. So in general, I think these two story combinations are pretty good, but the potential for making it great was completely missed by the writers. Number 8. Using Ko as an excuse to see Sokka and Katara's backstory. I'm really conflicted on this change because, on one hand, I think the way they just rope Sokka and Katara into the spirit world doesn't make any sense, and the way they explain it doesn't actually explain anything.
Somehow I brought you guys with me.
How is that possible?
Must be the energies in the place and thinness up the barrier in my power.
And also the fact that Ko inherently capturing Sokka and Katara and not taking away their faces because Ko isn't hungry or something is just a plain and simple contrivance. But on the other hand, I kind of like how Ko attacks her past trauma and uses that to ensnare its victims. It is a complete change from Ko stealing people's faces from showing emotions, but I think this does a good job at simultaneously exploring these characters. We're finally being shown something instead of the egregious amount of expository dialogue. These moments build the emotion of the characters and is an example of better writing. Sokka's insecurities being blown open, and the revelation in which Katara gets her mother killed by trying to waterbend is an ironic tragedy. Then the writers rock you emotionally with her mother taking the blame. These are some genuinely great moments, and I would put this higher if it wasn't surrounded by some nonsensical aspects. Number 7. General Iroh and Aang's scenes. General Iroh is my favorite character in the series, so him interacting with the main protagonist is going to easily be a great change. Because in the animated series, 95% of his scenes are just between him and Zuko. He very rarely is used outside of that dynamic. So seeing him interact with Aang not only makes sense because he wants to meet him, but these scenes even add more value to the story. Like Aang asking why the Fire Nation started the war to Iroh is genuinely a great subtle moment because Iroh is in disagreement with the Fire Nation as a whole. Seeing him phrase his answers non-personally and refusing to give his beliefs perfectly alludes to what Iroh's character is, without being very blunt. Unlike a lot of other character moments where they flat out look into the camera and tell you who they are and what they like. Then for the second scene, Iroh tells Aang a little bit of information about Zuko that allows Aang to partially sympathize with his conundrum, along with also setting up the notion that the Earth Kingdom can be pretty evil with how they treat their prisoners, establishing the theme that even the good guys can be morally gray. I wish we had more of these types of scenes that slows down the pace, because currently it feels way too breakneck. So having these two, despite being minimal in the wider context of the show, it's still a welcome addition. Number 6. Showing the Fire Nation wipe out the Airbenders. I've seen some discourse around this change where people say it's unnecessary, but given how much exposition there is in this fucking show, I'd much rather watch these events unfold instead of Katara nonchalantly stating what happens through more exposition. That, and I think this opening scene really establishes how dark this event is. The animated show is pretty upbeat, lighthearted, and positive, but under the surface lies a devastating full-on genocide. So I think the live-action adaptation showing this really establishes how evil the Fire Nation is, while also making the tone darker, which is necessary because the live-action medium can't be as cheery and silly as the cartoon. So it fulfills a great story purpose by showing us the most important event in the past. That also has some great world building, it establishes the tone, it sets up the main antagonistic force, and it acts as a gripping hook for the show. So this is why it kind of surprises me when I see people say that this is a bad change, when to me, this single change in the beginning of the show made me pretty optimistic for the rest of the season. Number 5. Zuko's reasoning for getting banished and him adopting the 41st. I think both the animated version and the live-action version have their own strengths for how this plays out, but I like how Zuko getting in trouble here is more reasonable. Because in the animated show, Zuko gets challenged to an Agni Kai just for simply speaking out, which does portray Ozai as being an unhinged father, but for the live-action version, it's more Zuko's fault than his father being insane. That, and through his banishment, his father is still portrayed as the psychotic figure who sees compassion as weakness. He even gives Zuko a second chance after his Agni Kai, and Zuko stands his ground and reaffirms his position. I think this strengthens Zuko's character even more, and in general, it gives this moment more depth and characterization for its characters. Then the reveal that Zuko's crew is the one he saved was an excellent moment with catharsis. All this hate this crew has towards Zuko is immediately reversed into immense respect. It's a really satisfying and uplifting moment. The writers coming up with that is genuinely great and makes this plot beat so much better. There's only a couple negatives surrounding this change, like Zuko low-key beating his father in a 1v1, which is ridiculous, and the writing being very hand-holdy, but it's still a great change nonetheless. Number 4. Combining Avatar Kyoshi in the Kyoshi Island episode. This change was so seamless and well integrated that I kind of forgot it wasn't this way in the animated version. Similar to the Jet and Mechanics change, combining story arcs that actually fit together is crucial in saving time in the show, since they only have 8 episodes. And out of all the combinations, this is easily the best because they perfectly supplement each other, along with having a better climax and having Avatar Kyoshi save the day. When looking back at the animated version, it's mostly just a coincidence that Team Avatar runs into the Kyoshi warriors, while here, the plot feels more deliberate and planned. Seeing Aang ride massive fish around in live action would be pretty insane, but I don't blame the creators at all for cutting that. Number 3. Having more development between Princess Yue and Sokka. Before going into the live action side of this, let's first recap what happens between these two characters in the animated show. Firstly, Sokka's first interaction with Yue is pretty awkward and embarrassing. This moment at the feast doesn't last very long, and then Sokka runs into her again. I should say stalk, because he chases after her and asks her out vaguely, while also embarrassing himself once more by falling into a river. Which, to be fair, it does make her laugh, but who wouldn't laugh at a fanatic stalker chasing after you who faceplants into a river? So then when they meet up, Sokka gives Yue a very precious gift, and she immediately regrets doing this and runs off. Like, the scene literally lasts like 30 seconds. Then at the end of the episode, they briefly meet up, Sokka says she's beautiful, she instantly kisses him, she says she's engaged and then runs away again. Like, this is just the most rushed love development I've ever seen, and it just doesn't make sense to me at all. The only natural moment after this is Sokka flexing on Yue by taking her on a ride on Appa, which sure, any girl will love that, and it would have made way more sense to start with that. But the fact that she's even considering this random buffoon in a romantic light, who she's barely interacted with, is absolutely insane.
I'm engaged. It just feels...
I know what you need.
So to me, giving them way more scenes to develop a relationship is a much needed change, along with making her not be engaged, because having a very fast romance while also having that background conflict is too much. Plus it also helps that Yue briefly interacted with Sokka in the spirit world, so it gives Sokka an organic way to initiate a conversation with her. And also her recognizing him and being open to that. It also turns out through Yue interacting with Sokka in the spirit world, it allows her character to establish a tangible reason as to why she likes Sokka.
Your heart. That's what sets you apart.
Then the actual quality of their scenes together were pretty good, and I think the actress playing Princess Yue was a standout. I like this moment in particular where, purely through her acting, she portrays a subtle love for Sokka.
Oh, sorry, I was looking for Katara.
So yeah, the Princess Yue romance in the animated series to me was pretty bad, and this was a definite improvement. Number 2. Having more development between Suki and Sokka. Sorry that this is kind of the same as the last one, but Sokka's two love interests in the first season were by far the weakest aspects in the animated show, purely because of how fast they were and how uncompelling and forced the romance between these characters were. Like, Sokka is literally being very rude to Suki in the animated series and is being very sexist towards her. He does come around and apologizes in the end for being a sexist asshole, and respects her as a warrior, but there inherently wasn't enough development to make Suki like Sokka. While in the live-action version, there's nothing about Sokka that negatively portrays himself towards Suki to make their romance unrealistic. Along with it being more compelling because not only is Suki getting along really well with Sokka's personality, but he's also a physical Chad apparently. Now, the writers deleting Sokka's sexism is inherently a downgrade because it's a character flaw that he overcomes, but it simultaneously sabotages any chances he'd have in bonding with female characters. I wish he was a bit more childish, but his humor with Suki I think lands really well, and I just found their scenes together to be way more magnetizing. That, and you just inherently need more time for a romantic bond to make sense. Number 1. General Iroh and Zuko's backstory. I think this is by far and away the best change the creators made to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Iroh and Zuko's dynamic is the best thing about the series to me because of how complex and dynamic it is. Their relationship throughout the series is constantly evolving, and the impact they have on each other is immense. So seeing much more context and backstory for their relationship is going to inherently be great. We see Iroh be a surrogate father towards Zuko, like him helping with his uniform. We get Zuko comforting Iroh during his son's funeral. That both perfectly establishes their strong bond, while also starting the notion that Zuko is compassionate. And the scene in which Iroh joins Zuko on his journey is oddly so wholesome and moving. Iroh is leaving behind his life in the Fire Nation just to spend his time with Zuko and foster him. In this very moment, Iroh figuratively adopts Zuko, and all of these moments add so much to their relationship. Also, I think it's genius how the creators integrated one of the best scenes in Season 2 where Iroh mourns his son in a beautifully somber moment, and converted it into a scene between him and Zuko. It imbues this short story with a great importance within the story while also capturing the emotion of the scene from the animated series as well. Also, I love how the motif of Little Soldier Boy returns here. So overall, I was kind of scared this moment wouldn't make it into the live action series, but thankfully, it was integrated and changed to fit better. Thank you for watching, and I'll post the top 10 worst changes tomorrow, so make sure to subscribe to get the notification for that video and check it out. And thank you to my outstanding patron, Logan Farmer.